to Level Up with Tech, a video podcast from Beaufort County Schools. Our guest today is Megan Ormond.
Hey Megan, welcome to the show.
Hey Amy, thanks for having me.
Certainly. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I teach English 3 and 4 at the Early College High School. I've been there for 8 years and I've been teaching for 17.
Okay, awesome. So this school year is a little different than years past. Tell us a little bit about things y'all are doing different, like your learning cycles.
Okay, so our learning cycle is all about finding a need at our school, doing some research and reading about how we can fill that need for our students, and then trying some things out in our classroom, observing each other, and working towards improvement. So this year, because of so much virtual learning, we identified the need to use technology to have our students be more engaged in our curriculum and more engaged with each other to try to get rid of some of that isolation they're feeling.
Gotcha. So in the years past, you've used Canvas.
Right.
And this year we transitioned over to Google Classroom, mostly as a district. Tell us the differences between Canvas and Google Classroom you've had to overcome.
So Google Classroom is really user-friendly, and it integrates with a lot of the programs we use, and we love that aspect. But we did lose the ability to do some of the interactive features that Canvas had, particularly things like online discussion boards.
Gotcha. So what program have you used to overcome that?
We've explored a lot of different options, and one that I found that I really like that has been effective for my students is Parlay, which is an online discussion tool.
Gotcha. Does your whole staff use Parlay?
Some teachers have started trying it out. So as part of our learning cycles, we've shared resources with each other, and we have a Google Doc that we share amongst our staff, and we keep adding ideas to it as a living document. And then we demonstrate things for each other in our PLC meetings. So while I demonstrated Parlay, some other teachers now have started using that as well.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Can you show us how you're using Parlay in your class?
Absolutely.
You're going to go to parlayideas.com, and from there you'll have a few options. You can log in, and it does give you the option to log in with Google. You'll notice that you can try Parlay for free. You can do 8 to 12 different roundtable discussions, either online or live, before you would have to upgrade and pay. So the first option you'd have is to explore the Parlay universe, where they have pre-made discussion topics for you to use. You can browse those by subject area. So if you clicked on history, there are several different categories that you could explore. If you click on early American history, you can see they have lots of pre-made discussions that you could use and assign to your class. Some are made by Parlay themselves, some are submitted by other educators. Or you have the option to create your own from scratch. When you do that, they do give you a template to use, and then you can add your own questions and resources for students to explore and interact with. So here's an example of a Parlay online discussion that I created for my class. You'll notice that you have a place to put learning goals or essential questions, and then you can add content and multimedia for students to explore within the discussion board itself. So you can see for this discussion, I gave students some options of what they would explore. For example, a crash course video, a collection of photos on a BBC website, or a short allegory that they could read. And my students had to pick 2 of those to explore and then respond to 2 of the discussion questions that I posed. You can create your own instructions for students to follow. And then you can also add peer feedback instructions. Since this is an online discussion, you really want students to engage and interact with each other's ideas. So for this online discussion board, I created different options for students to use to interact with each other's posts. And I told them they had to respond to at least 2. But there are some nice things about Parlay that it gives you as well. They, if you look at the top of the screen, have peer feedback options. So once you click on that, you'll see all these pre-made sentence stems that students can use to help them respond. Once you go to these peer feedback questions, you'll see that you can turn them on or off or edit them And that way students will see these sentence stems that they can use to help them create quality responses to their peers. I've seen a lot of improvement in my students' responses to others by using these in some of our online discussions. You'll see that there's an assessment piece built in as well, that you can choose the criteria that you want to assess students on with their responses, and you can change these based on the list that Parlay gives you. You'll notice that I have anonymity turned on for my discussion. If you look to the left, these are all my students, but notice that they have secret identities, which the students actually really like. So I can click a button and see who these students actually are. But within the online discussion, students cannot see each other's names. They will only see each other's secret identities. And each secret identity is a famous person, a philosopher, or a scientist, what have you. And so as students get their secret identity, they can also hover over that person's picture or name and learn a little bit about who that person was, which is just a nice addition to what students can do. The other part of Parlay that you can utilize is the live discussion. Now, this was originally meant to help facilitate in-person discussions within your classroom. However, I found it to be really useful for engaging students with live virtual discussions as well. I'm not sure if you guys have struggled with having students really engage in discussion while so many of them are virtual, but I had. And when we tried to do a Parlay live discussion, I saw a lot of increased participation, and it really helped facilitate students talking and responding to each other in a meaningful way. So this is what a live discussion would look like from a teacher's view. And typically, if my students were in the discussion, you would see all their names over here on the left. And when a student wanted to participate in the discussion, they would have this same interface in front of them on their computers, and they can tap in. So by clicking on this button, they can join the discussion and indicate to me and the rest of the group that they have a new idea to share. Once I've called on that student, they can tap out, and then they would leave the middle of the discussion circle. What this did for our discussions is give us a way to let everyone in the class, including me as the teacher, know who wanted to talk. If they wanted to challenge someone else's idea or build on to what someone else had said, they could indicate that as well. And once you click on this, you can actually click who you wanted to build on to. That way it showed me that they were actively listening. They could let me know that they wanted to pose a question. And when this is happening live, you can see how many times a student has tapped in already. So if student A has already tapped in 10 times and student B has tapped in 2, I know that it might be helpful for me to call on student B to have them participate a little bit more. So there's a lot of choice you get as the teacher. It gives you a lot of power to see that in front of you. Also, when your students' names are over here on the left, you can click on them and privately send them a message during the discussion, encouraging them to participate or giving them feedback about their participation. You can also see, I've got the polls up now. You can create a quick poll for your students that they can respond to as a starting point for a discussion as well. And then after you either do a live discussion or an online discussion, you as the teacher can see the summary data, which can be really powerful. So for this discussion, you can see that 94% of my students participated. You can see the time each student spent tapped in, the number of average tap-ins per student, the number of new ideas, challenges, build-ons, and questions. And then it gives me suggestions for how I can help the class be more engaging in their discussions the next time we do this.
I ended my feelings with Curly's life. She just felt bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So did anybody that said no in the poll want to explain? I'm just kind of curious because Tyler asked to hear from those people. So Ethan.
I didn't like her at the beginning, not because I think she was like being unfaithful, but that was like kind of it. I just didn't like her. And then she said the thing to the Crooks guy, and I didn't like that either. And then all because she was being nice to Lenny. It just depends on whether or not you think that she would want wanted to cheat on Curly with him, and I think a part of being lonely is a reason people have affairs. So, like, I don't know whether, like, I don't think there's any evidence to say that she did. But.
How has it helped with engagement with your students?
My students really enjoyed both the online discussion, but especially the live discussion interface. They felt like it really helped them encourage their classmates who might be more reticent to speak, because they can vote for who they want to hear from next, and they can give virtual high fives, which they felt like was really helpful to hear from some of those people.
Gotcha. I bet it is fun to see that confetti flying around.
Yeah.
But it's cool. How about the cost of the program?
You can try Parlay for free, and you can do up to 12 discussions, either online or live, before you have to pay any fee.
Gotcha. Do you feel like the cost of the program is worth paying?
I definitely do, especially during virtual learning. For an English language arts classroom, class discussions are such a vital part of our learning and our curriculum, and having so many students participate virtually made it really hard to have some of those rich discussions. However, when we did a live discussion through Parlay, my students spent the entire 80-minute class period discussing, and we only stopped because the class ended.
Right. That's cool. So collaboration among your students is good?
Absolutely. This really helped them build off of each other's ideas. You know, one of the features in Parlay is not only that they get a chance to speak, but they can indicate whether they want to challenge an idea or build on an idea. And as we looked at some of those statistics after our conversation, students themselves identified, hey, we really need to challenge each other's ideas a little more instead of always agreeing.
And that's really cool. Well, it sounds like a really neat program.
So far, it has been really successful.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I guess that's it for today. I appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy.
Later.